Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me, True Crime with Jess Rose. Sorry I haven't been on. This video was a week ago. I've been looking at different programs and different cases, and I will warn you, this one is quite graphic. I know most of the stories I do to true crime, so they're all quite graphic, but this one, very similar to the Gemma McCluskey case and the Becky Watts case. This one goes a bit further. It's it's from a show called Crimes That Shook Britain, and it's actually called The Crossbow Cannibal. It's in the title, isn't it? So I have warned you. Okay, so back in 2009-2010, there was a 43-year-old woman called Susan Rushworth, and Susan, she was a prostitute working the streets of Bradford in the red light district. And Susan had unfortunately become addicted to heroin, and this was how she was paying for a habit. And you know, it wasn't a lifelong thing. You know, in her 20s, she had got married, she'd had children. You know, she had a nice life, she had a nice family. In her 30s, the marriage broke down. She made a couple of poor decisions with boyfriends, and unfortunately one of them got her involved in heroin, and she very quickly became addicted. And as we know, you know, with that kind of drug, you'll do anything to get it. Not that I know. Honestly, I'm just saying, you know, history tells you that's what people will do. They'll do anything to get that next hit. And unfortunately, that's what she turned to, the oldest profession in the world. And her family, she had a very close-knit family, and they knew about it, and they tried everything they could. You know, her mum sent her to rehab. On the show, her brother's on there, her brother Paul, and he does explain, you know, the mum she was sent to rehab. She was on methadone. She was trying to get her life back on track, but she was still working the streets. And in June 2009, she was supposed to go and get her prescription of methadone, and she didn't turn up. She didn't turn up for that. She wasn't answering the phone to anybody. No one seen her, and it wasn't a long time had passed between not seeing it, because, like I say, her family, they were very close. They were very involved in her life, so they knew that she always answered her phone. And she wasn't. So they phoned the police, and the police got involved. There was a press conference called where her son, you know, gave an appeal for her return. You know, mum, please come home. People were wondering, had she just had enough and got up and gone? Of course, that was an option, but her family didn't believe it. They didn't believe that wasn't her. It wasn't who she was. So searches were done, and like I said, the press conference, leaflets, all the efforts to find this lady, and weeks slowly turn into months, and there's no sign of her. Her brother on the show, he says there was just no sign of her, but her bank cards weren't being used, her phone wasn't being used. It was definitely suspicious. It wasn't like she had just gone and started a new life somewhere. It was, I can't imagine every day the not knowing would be awful. So then we moved to a lady called Shelley Armitage, who, when Paul and the rest of the family were looking for Susan Rushworth, they spoke to Shelley Armitage. Now, Shelley Armitage was also a working woman. Very similar story. She fell into the trap of heroin when she was 16, and her sister's on the show. and I think it's a dad as well. There's a couple of members of her family on the show, and she tried to keep that hidden. She did try to keep it hidden, and they found out what she was doing. And again, close family wanted to help her. It was a poor relationship, poor choices, just led her into this path. And when Susan Rushworth went missing, Paul actually said he spoke to Shelley. Shelley hadn't seen her. You know, they worked the same kind of area. She hadn't seen her. So in the spring of 2010, which is coming around to a year from when Susan went missing, Shelley disappears off the face of the earth. Gone. Not answering the phone. No sign of her. Again, you know, in touch with her family a lot throughout the day. Her sister said she was supposed to speak to her later on that evening when she hadn't heard from her. They started to question it. It wasn't like these two women were loners or had no family. They had this close support network, and just like Susan, Shelley's family knew there was something wrong, phoned the police, done a press conference. There was actually CCTV footage of Shelley the last time she was seen, and she was walking up and down the road, and the family seen that. But there was nothing after. There was nothing after. The CCTV footage was released to see if it kind of racked anyone's memory. This again, two women just disappeared off the face of the earth. No sign of them. No movement on their banks. It wasn't good, and police started to worry because it was working women. It had the feel of the Peter Sutcliffe case about it. Peter Sutcliffe, I will do that story. I have been asked by one of the gentlemen that watches the videos if I would look at Peter Sutcliffe, and he was a good guy. Not back in the late 70s and early 80s, and it's very similar to that case, and the police were worried that it was a copycat. So they were intent on finding whoever this was. They couldn't prove that it was connected. It was just very coincidental. So then we have Suzanne Blameyer, who's 36. Blameyer's, 36. Very similar again. She working girl, for drugs, heroin addict, close family. But they couldn't sway her from the path she was on, but they stayed in touch, and she was in touch with her family all the time, and she didn't have a lot of friends. She used to before these drugs took hold, and this was now her life. And they tried everything they could. They tried everything to stop it happening. And Nikki is her mum, is Suzanne's mum, and she's on the show. You can't imagine how hard it must be for these family members to be appearing on these shows. Honestly, it's not a mass amount of time either. 10 years. It must be so hard. So in the summer of 2010, so now we're a clear year from when Susan went missing, Suzanne disappears. Face of the earth again. Press conferences, the police called, press conference held. The police are getting worried now. They're getting worried. They feel they could possibly have a serial killer on the hands of working girls in the Bradford area, which, like I say, is very, very similar to the Peter Sutcliffe, who was nicknamed the Suffolk Strangler. So they're getting really worried now, the police are. So it's 3 women in the space of 1 year, all missing, no sign of them. Well, in Bradford, there was an address called Homefield Court, and it was some flats by the red light district. And within the flats, there's CCTV. And the caretaker, I think possibly, maybe he only looks every few days, or it was after the weekend. It didn't quite sound, no, a bit of time had passed, but he was looking through the CCTV footage of the flats, and it shows Suzanne Blameyers, the last lady to go missing. It shows her walking to a flat with a gentleman. Then very quickly, seconds, she comes running back out of the flat. Now, the caretaker's watching this. From behind her comes a gentleman, whose flat it obviously is, with a crossbow. I don't know if you've ever seen, they're massive. They are huge, a crossbow. It's not like when you were a kid and it was bing. They're huge. And he comes walking behind her with a crossbow. And what that caretaker seen then, we'll never leave him. He wasn't on the show, but that would never leave anybody. It would never leave anybody. So after seeing this footage, he phones the police. The police straight away phone Suzanne's mum, Nikki, and call her in to show the CCTV footage. Now, what it actually shows is, like say, her going in, running out. As she's running, this gentleman fires the crossbow. First one apparently missed her. I don't know if she just couldn't get to the door in time, the exit, I don't know. And we can see that on the show, you actually see that bit. You see her walking in. I do recommend watching the show because I can only explain it from my point of view. So if you do watch that Crimes at Shut Britain, you can see her walking to the flat with the gentleman. Did I actually just say gentleman? With the man. You see her running out. You see her getting towards the door. What you don't see, and thank God that will never be released, is he fires the crossbow at her, misses, fires again and hits her, and then when he catches up to her, right in front of the CCTV is right there, he then fires it into her head and drags her back to his flat. And that's why I'm saying the caretaker will never forget that, and neither will her mum. Her mum watched that. Now, of course, we don't see that. But what you do see is after she's been dragged back to the flat, he comes back out, and you do see this, but he comes back out and he gives the camera the finger with the crossbow in the other hand. But how did he know that it wasn't being watched live? Did he care? I just don't know. So, like I say, the caretaker's gone to the police. They've shown Suzanne's mum. But they've gone round to the flat and she's not there. She's not there. Like I say, a few days have lapsed. So she's not there. So they, of course, bring him in. And the gentleman's name is Stephen Griffiths. And you see the interviews with him. Not right in the slightest. Don't be fooled. He was very intelligent. He was a very intelligent man. He had a BA in psychology. He was also studying 19th century death techniques. It was said that it wasn't the studying that brought on this obsession. The obsession was already there. He had this obsession with murder and death anyway, so it's like he pursued that line of education to maybe plan what he wanted to do in the future. It's a lot of work to put in. I dare say getting a BA in psychology is not an easy thing to do. So he did have a couple of friends. He had a neighbour that he spoke to over their common love of animals, joint love of animals. And the one day invited her in, and she's on the show, this neighbour is, and she says that when she went in, it was very dreary. It was a bit creepy, tight flat, and he had a snake and other various animals, and she said he took great pleasure in putting a mouse. I mean, he showed her the mouse and he was like, oh, you know, isn't it cute? And then putting it in to be obviously eaten, but he took great pleasure in it. He had another friend that was on the show, an actual friend, so-called friend, who did say his friend circle, you know, was diminishing very quickly because he was showing these signs in the sense of when he was there, again with a mouse, he bit it in half. He ate it in front of his friend. It's not really inviting someone round for filming nachos, is it? I'm going to eat a mouse in front of you. Obviously, it wasn't right. So, not long after, there was just a normal member of the public walking along a nearby river. It was quite nearby, I believe. And there was a suitcase, and when they opened it, there was Suzanne's head was in there. With the crossbow bolt and knife in her head still. Just like the caretaker. How has that member of the public gone over that? You just can't imagine, can you? Going about your business, seeing something, thinking, let's have a nose. And that's what you find. So, of course, they let her parents know. And they start searching this river. They start searching because you're hoping to find, obviously, the rest of this poor woman. Now, don't forget, this is Suzanne. There's still Susan and Shelley missing. And when they're searching the river, they actually find 81 body parts. 81. So they bring this to him, and he confesses. He confesses, doesn't really. They believe he was after fame. They believe he had kind of had modelled himself on Peter Sutcliffe, the way he'd gone about it, the demographic he chose to go after. Yeah, so they'd done the DNA checks on these body parts that they found. He'd already confessed to it, but they've got to get these bodies back to their families. They need to be able to bury their loved ones. It's devastating enough that he's confessed to these 3 women's murders, which he did, he confessed to them. But they've got to try and piece them, because they've realised that not only has he done this to them, he dismembered them, 3 of them. 81 body parts. 81. So they do the DNA tests on the body parts that they find, and they find in their entirety, I believe, Suzanne and Shelley, but not Susan. Susan Rushmore, the first lady who went missing. So in his interviews, they're very cryptic, they're very muddled. They start to look more into him as this is all coming about. On this side, they're still building their case against him. And they find out he's been in and out of trouble all his life. He was assessed to, and he was said to have homicidal tendencies. He was diagnosed with a personality disorder. He's always been an outsider. I don't know why this man wasn't being watched. The medical staff knew that. He was diagnosed. I mean, was he given medication? He was very narcissistic as well. He wanted a lot of attention. They found Facebook accounts, quite a few different ones, where he was calling himself Ven Pariah, which they believe, obviously his name is Stephen Griffiths, so they believe the Ven could have been for Steve Ven. And Pariah, it's social pariah, isn't it? It's not belonging to anybody. It's being an outsider. I believe that could have been it. There's a lot of photos of him, you know, very narcissistic, very wanted to be spotted, wanted fame. They're saying that's what he wanted. He wanted fame for what he was doing. So in court, in Leeds Crown Court, when he was asked by the judge, "What's your name?" he named himself the Crossbow Cannibal. It wasn't the media that named him that. It was him, which shone a different light, because don't forget, they still hadn't found all of Susan. And the police and the media, obviously the media straight in, the police were like, oh my God. So they're still doing forensic cleanups and everything else, and there was DNA found on his cooker. He was cooking them, I believe. He was cooking them. He was eating these women. They also found photos of the three ladies wrapped up in carpet or of some sort, I believe, and photos just before they died. So you've not only got the caretaker, the member of the public that the caretaker's in the CCTV, the member of the public that found Suzanne's head in the suitcase. You've got the police that had to see these ladies in the last moments of their life, knowing what he then does to them. There's got to be some serious counselling. Got to have been. That's all I can say. It's just terrible. It's just absolutely terrible. Of course, he was found guilty. He received, well, he confessed, so he would have pled guilty. Sorry. He received 3 life sentences, and it's been said he will never, ever be released. Stephen Griffiths will never be released, which is fantastic news for mankind. But it does beg the question, why was he not watched? He was obviously a danger. Saying that though, he was going to college, he was living a normal life, or university, sorry, he was living a normal life. He had friends, so to speak, even though they were quite wary of him. It's a hard one, really. Did he come across as perfect? I mean, even his neighbour, she said they did get on. She said it wasn't until she actually went into his flat she was a bit up. And that's what they think with Suzanne Blame was the reason she ran so quickly out of his flat, because the neighbour said, she said it was very grey, it was very dingy, it was really overwhelming, it wasn't a nice place to be. And maybe Suzanne, upon getting there, thought, I've got to get out of here. She must have spotted the danger and she ran, and it's just such a shame that she was stopped. And the way how brazen he was, just to, when you'll see, you can see the camera foot, you can't see online anymore. You don't see her, you see him online, but you don't see her online anymore. I actually seen it on the programme Crimes That Shook Britain. I actually seen it on there, so if you do want to see that, I think it's on there. I'm not sure if it's on, I think it might be on other shows, but I definitely didn't see it online, that bit. Yeah. What do you say? What do you say about that? It's just devastating. I think the most upsetting part of watching that is Susan Rushmore's family. I think it was Susan Rushmore. There's a lot of family on the show, and the dad of one of the girls, they haven't been able to bury her. They haven't been able to bury her because they haven't had all of her back. And if the DNA showing on the cooker and what he claimed he was, Crossbow cannibal, is true, how do you actually prove that? Then she'll never be found. She'll never. It's just devastating. It's just such a sad story. It's sad. it's it's beyond that. It's beyond sad. You know, all the stories I do are awful. You know, I think they're ones that need to be remembered. That, you know, for the victims, not for the perpetrator. You know, less said about them the better. Although this guy, oh God, he wanted fame. He went all out for it, didn't he? But I think the victims all deserve to be remembered and to be spoken about, and for to be still remembered, And I don't. That's why I do this as well, so they're not forgotten. Because some of the cases, I mean, this is more of a current one that I've done in 2009, 2010. But even the older ones, I feel they do need to be spoken about, because people do forget. They do forget that these awful things happened, and I think that's really sad that if they're forgotten just like that. So that's why I do these stories. Thank you again for joining me. Like I say, I will be looking at doing the Peter Sutcliffe one, which is who this guy, I believe, based his spree on. And there is another story that I've been asked to look at, the Black Dahlia. I will look at that. I haven't forgotten. If you've got any you'd like to discuss or you'd like me to have a look at, please let me know. Please subscribe. I'd really, really appreciate it. And to everyone who has subscribed or does watch these videos, please know I do really appreciate it. I really do. I know they're long. They are unedited. I know I and ah a lot, but I really, really do appreciate you watching them. And I hope you join me again. Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye.